My, how the Bedlam roles have reversed. I'm Jenny Carlson here with fellow columnist Barry Trammell, and this is the Press Row. Barry, a Sooner team accustomed to playing for championships, instead is playing the spoiler role Saturday in Norman. Keep Oklahoma State out of the Fiesta Bowl. How do you think OU will respond to such a strange assignment?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting because this Oklahoma team is not accustomed to playing out the string of a season. Been to 8 Big 12 title games and have been basically in contention for a couple more. 2005 and 1999 is really the only time they've ever played under Bob Stoops, just playing for bowl pairings. So I don't know how they'll respond. Saturday at Lubbock was not a good indication of how they'll respond. Everything's sort of off the table, and Sooners didn't show up for the first time all year. I think Oklahoma's mental state is a little bit in question. You know,
it's interesting, too, because they're really not playing for a higher or better bowl. It sounds like at this point, regardless of what happens, Sun Bowl is it.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I think some things could still happen, but it looks like win or lose, the scenarios are Sooners probably going to El Paso. So they really can. The two things they've got is protect the home streak, which is important to them, and spoil Oklahoma State's season. So Oklahoma State's been in that role in the past. As recently as last November, spoil Oklahoma's bid for a national championship game. And now the roles are reversed.
While everything has been sort of falling apart for the Sooners this year with injuries and offense and all those sorts of things, Sooner defense has stood pretty tall this year. But at Texas Tech last week, we saw that really changed for the first time. They got gouged in some ways that we haven't seen yet this year. Historic numbers in first downs, points, total yards. What happened to OU's defense, and which defense are we going to see Saturday in Bedlam?
I think this was a case where a unit that had sort of been walking around carrying the load for the whole team all season long finally just gave out. In OU's 4 previous losses, the defense was superb. 14 points given up against Brigham Young, 21 against Miami, but 7 were basically a fumble by the offense. 16 points by Texas. 10 points against Nebraska, the touchdown on a 1-yard drive. I mean, this defense played to a championship level all season. Now there's no championship. You're playing in a tough place. You're playing Texas Tech. I think they gave out mentally. I think they gave out emotionally. And I think it's not unexpected, really, when you look at what happened. I don't think that's necessarily a sign that the defense has packed it in. I think the defense will show up Saturday. I think they'll play tough. I think Oklahoma State's going to have to win a low-scoring game. I don't think the Cowboys can come down there and win 31-28 Saturday.
The interesting thing about the way the defense played Saturday in Lubbock was the running numbers. And I know Texas Tech runs the ball a little bit differently than most people, but is that the biggest area of concern for this defense as they face Oklahoma State, which Texas Tech, worst rushing team in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, best.
Well, yeah, it is just the fact that Tech was able to run on Oklahoma. Bob Stoops, that was his number one. That was his number one message after the game is, if you get run on, you're going to get beat. And he said, we got run on today. Now, you're right in that everything Tech does is so different than most people. Oklahoma State, a lot more physical of a running team. So it'll be a little bit different. Oklahoma State doesn't have the passing threat that you see with Texas Tech. But the scary thing for Oklahoma is this. This is probably Mike Leach's worst offense in his 10 years in Lubbock. And they gouged the Sooners. So I think Oklahoma State will still have trouble running on Oklahoma. I think the Oklahoma defense will be back. I think it's the offense that OU has to worry about.
Okay, let's talk about the other side of the ball then. Landry Jones returns to Norman, where apparently he puts on the Superman cape and is invincible. He's played great in Norman, not so great away from home. Does that spell problems for OSU's defense?
Well, it is a concern, although if you look at it this way, Oklahoma's 5 toughest opponents this year have all been away from Norman. And frankly, the fact that Kansas State is a little bit better than Kansas keeps it from the 6th best opponents all away from home. So Landry's had a good game on the road, and that was at Kansas. And Kansas, as we know, is not very good. So as Landry has two main trends. Play well at home, not so well on the road. The other trend is this. Play really well against bad teams, not so great against good teams.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma State goes in the good team category. The defense is very good, ranked 31st in total defense. So if Landry Jones plays well, he overcomes the trend, and this will be his first really strong game against a good defense. So I think it would not be surprising to see Landry Jones struggle against the Cowboys.
That's it for the Press Row. For continuing coverage of Bedlam 2009, stay with newsok.com as well as the Oklahoman every day.